Thank you for joining our SERMAPod today. I am Marcy Redding, subbing in for Rich Lankhoff today. I work with Command Investigations, and today we are chatting with Sam Ehrlich, teaches legal studies at Boise State. Sam, why don't you go ahead and just tell us a little bit about yourself, a quick introduction.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much for having me on the podcast. Yeah, like you said, Marcy, my name is Sam Ehrlich. I'm an assistant professor of legal studies at Boise State in the College of Business and Economics. And yeah, I mean, ever since the undergraduate, really, I've really been just fascinated by the legal aspects of sport and just thinking about sports law, researching sports law, talking about sports law. So really, I feel like I have a great job for that because I get to write about and kind of follow a lot of the really important and impactful legal cases in sports, specifically college sports right now. And there's certainly gives you a lot to do.
Absolutely. And in this role and in this time, you have launched this college sports litigation tracker, which is my understanding a free online database designed to monitor ongoing lawsuits that could significantly impact the future of college athletics. So, what inspired you to create the college sports litigation tracker, and how do you go from having this great idea to implementing a live platform?
Yeah, so the litigation tracker is really something that, like, in conversations that I was having with a good friend of mine, a co-author of mine, Joe Sabin at Southeastern Louisiana, we talked so much last year about, middle of last year, about how we really wish that there was some kind of website to kind of keep track of everything, because there's just so much going on with college sports. There's so many different lawsuits, so many different cases that really could have a lot of impact. And it was things where, for Joe and I, for our researchers in college sports, our researchers in the legal aspects of college sports, following everything was just so challenging. And I've been able to follow a lot of these cases through a subscription to a service called Docketbird that I have, and that's been really helpful. But really only helpful for me because, for one, I get the emails myself, and sometimes I post on Twitter, sometimes I don't. But and for two, like, I have it there. I have it kind of the ability to see it myself, but having it all in one place, having it all kind of organized, even just for me, I mean, for not even thinking about how it's been impactful to other people as well. Having something like that for me, having it kind of organized all in one place instead of having to search through all the folders, search through the various cases I'm tracking on Docketbird, I felt like would be something that was really helpful. Joe, he'd keep asking me for documents. He'd keep asking me for kind of updates on cases. He said, "Hey, why don't I'd love for someone to start something like this." And I'm like, "Well, I know a little bit of HTML. It's been a while since I've played around with it, but yeah, I got to work. I put something together. I asked Joe and my other friend and the co-author Neil Turnus to, kind of check in and see what they would kind of want in something like this as kind of fellow college sports researchers. And the more I kind of dug into it, the more, one, I found it helpful for myself just to be able to go to one place to find an important document that I was looking for something I'm researching. But two, just talking with other professors, other academics, other and even journalists in the college sports space, they were saying kind of similar things where, hey, I'd love to be able to keep track of all this. It's so much to keep track of. Like, in the few weeks before I launched it, I was kind of, showing it a few different people, and they're like, "Oh, you need to release this widely because it's just going to be really helpful." So
Yep.
again, something that I really just started for myself and something that I really just thought was going to be helpful for myself. But I'm so glad to see that it's been helpful to other people as well.
Yeah, so that was my next question. What are the impact, that you hoped the tracker would have?
I really just hope that it would be something that people could use to really better just keep track of everything that's going on in college sports law, and as something that could be kind of a one-stop shop, and really something that can just help better kind of inform a lot of people about kind of the lawsuits that are going on in all these different cases. And it's kind of interesting because of, just the timing of kind of when I was able to release it. We had all the different eligibility lawsuits involving the NCAA, the Seattle Hall case, right after the Pavia case. So the Seattle Hall case, the Goldstein case, the Arboleda case, the Osuna Sanchez case, all these different lawsuits that came out where, again, just being able to track them, being able to kind of have a one-stop shop to be able to keep track of all of this, I found it incredibly helpful for my own research. And I just hope the impact that it has is kind of similar just helpfulness for everyone else as well.
How long, Professor, has the platform been live?
So the platform's been live. I released it in mid January, so it's been live for a few months now, for a couple of months now. I've kind of been playing around with it since late summer of last year, so I've kind of had access to it on my own. But I launched it officially in mid January.
Do have you considered whether or not the increased visibility of the lawsuits in your tracker could influence NCAA policies or how they approach legal challenges moving forward?
Potentially, yeah, because really, I mean, one thing that the tracker does, one thing I've done with the tracker is kind of categorize it, and you can kind of see how many different lawsuits they're getting in particular areas, and how many different versions of kind of the same lawsuit in some of these cases, like we saw with the eligibility lawsuits. And if it's something where they can kind of look at and say, hey, maybe this is we're fighting kind of a losing battle in this front, that would be something where it might have some positive impact. But I'm not. I think there's a lot of people within the NCAA. Like I've had people reach out to me, not necessarily within the NCAA itself, but within athletic departments, saying that this is something that's been helpful to them. So I think having athletic directors, having or not just athletic directors, but everyone in athletic departments be better informed about the issues with the NCAA, the legal issues with the NCAA. I think that could potentially help drive policy as well.
Hmm. And how has working on this project influenced your perspective on emerging trends in sports lawsuits like athlete compensation and Title IX reform?
It definitely has. Just again, being able to see it all in one place and being able to see how many different lawsuits are being filed in specific categories. I mean, there's a lot of these lawsuits, like a lot of these plaintiffs who are really like looking for relief in particular areas. The house settlement, for example, not only even just a house settlement, but lawsuits kind of filed adjacent to the house settlement, including the South Dakota lawsuit that they filed, and Houston Christian's appeal of their motion to try to get into the House settlement, to be able to make a lot of the same cases that South Dakota is arguing, which is that, hey, this is unfair to lower tier schools. This is something where it's going to hurt us a lot. This goes against kind of what we signed up for when we decided to join the NCAA. Seeing a lot of that is has been really kind of fascinating from my perspective. And the eligibility lawsuits, like that's something I'm working on an article on right now, just the way that those eligibility lawsuits happened, kind of the trends with them, the similarities with them, and the very different ways that they've been decided has been really extremely interesting to me as well. And the Title IX lawsuits as well. Like I actually just had another one yesterday because it was one that I actually hadn't been following. I actually didn't even really know about, like I hadn't seen, but a big decision was issued and I'm like, oh, I should add that in. And it's again, seeing all these different Title IX lawsuits, and given how Title IX has for forever really been kind of driven by plaintiffs, driven by lawsuits, that's particularly important as well. And it's interesting to see how schools are reacting to Title IX as well.
And you're giving access then in real time. So, how do you see the tracker helping key stakeholders in college sports? Athletes, fans, lawyers, policymakers, risk managers. Like how do you see the tracker helping them to navigate the complex legal landscape?
I think if anything, it gives information, it gives transparency, it gives kind of a broader level of knowledge and kind of more insight into kind of all these different legal issues that are going on. Because I think, for one, just with all the lawsuits that are going on, maybe you see something on Twitter or other social media service once, or D1 Tracker or one of these services once, and you see it, but you don't really think about it for a while because it hasn't really, nothing noteworthy has necessarily happened with it. So it kind of falls out of mind, but it's still going on. It's still happening. And I think for a lot of people within college sports, like don't necessarily they're not they don't really know all the legal issues that are going on with the NCAA right now. Like they have an idea that yes, we have this big house settlement. Everyone's talking about the house settlement. That's a big thing, but they don't necessarily know about the other cases that are going on as well, and the other cases that really could have some very broad impact and really are pushing for broad reform. And given how much the NCAA has been changed by litigation over the past decade plus, I think it's important. Like I kind of joke with people that to work in college sports these days, you kind of need a law degree, and maybe you don't need a law degree, but you definitely need some legal knowledge, and or at least some knowledge of kind of all the issues that are going on, and hopefully the tracker helps with that.
Yeah, absolutely. How about feedback? So you've been live for a short time now. What's the feedback been like?
It's been very positive. It's been surprisingly positive. Like, I've really been blown away by the amount of people who have reached out to me, and people in various different roles who I never really thought I'd be able to reach with this kind of thing, just posting about it on Twitter. But it's spread in a really good way. And like, I've made some really good connections. I've had people kind of behind the scenes say, "Hey, you made a this lawsuit, or this one just got filed, and it may not have shown up on your tracker yet." So that's been really helpful, and that to me is the best kind of feedback. Like, being told that I'm missing a lawsuit, because one, it makes it much more of a collaborative effort instead of just being me. And two, it really shows that people care about these issues and that people want to see kind of more transparency in regard to these legal issues. So I love it when people reach out to me on that, when people let me know of something I'm missing or something I got mistaken. And that's been really, really helpful to me. And that's been really encouraging to me as well. And just hearing from people saying, I really appreciate what you're doing. I really appreciate the tracker, and please continue it. It gives me a lot of drive to keep doing it, because it was something where I thought it might be helpful to me. I thought it might be something that I'd find some use out of, but the fact that it's helping other people as well, just it makes me feel really, really good about actually doing it in the first place.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you have designed something that that makes it easy for people to have access to consolidated information in a broad area, and you're making it accessible, easily accessible. So, what then do you think are the most important legal issues in college sports right now? The ones that are in need of more public attention.
Well, I mean, the easy one is the house settlement, though that's one that maybe doesn't need more public attention because there's already so much public attention about it. It is front and foremost, really the one of the biggest stories in college sports in 2025 and back in 2024 as well. But I think there are things behind the scenes with the house settlement that are not necessarily getting the attention that they should. There's been so much outcry over the roster limits, for example, and very little transparency from the NCAA as to why the roster limits are there in the first place, and how exactly they're going to implement these roster limits. And one thing that is almost been a little heartbreaking about running the tracker is seeing and uploading all these different letters from parents who have been crying out and saying, my kid just got cut from a school, or her school, and I why Judge Wilkin, why plaintiffs' lawyers, why defendants' lawyers, why are you doing this? Why is this necessary? Like, is this something that's actually going to be, is this actually something that you're actually going to address? So the roster limits have been kind of a really very disheartening thing with the House settlement, and really makes me question whether, despite all the good that it does, and all the credit to Kessler and Berman for negotiating that massive settlement that does a lot of good. The roster limits part of it, really, the impact that it's had on so many different people, so many different college students and their parents. It's been difficult to see it, difficult to read all these different letters. I also think, as I mentioned before, the eligibility lawsuits, starting with the Pavia case, where just today the NCAA released kind of a Q&A as to how they're kind of approaching the waiver coming out of that case. But just the way that they did the waiver, and the way that other athletes are saying, "Hey, we have a similar case here. Why are we not kind of being treated the same way? Why are we kind of left in the fringe of this lawsuit, fringes of this waiver, kind of within a loophole to this waiver where we're not getting eligibility?" That's been really interesting to follow as well, and the way it's created not necessarily a circuit split because it's strictly at the district court, but we now have three very different decisions, three very different judicial kind of views of how to handle those types of cases at preliminary injunction. So that's something that I'm continuing to track. I'm continuing to look at, and kind of following the Pavia case moving forward as it goes into the Sixth Circuit is going to be absolutely fascinating to see how they handle that.
As a professor, how is your research and teaching being influenced by the consumption of all of this real-time data and the trends that you're seeing through, building the tracker and updating and adding? I'm sure it's probably your second full-time job, right?
I don't know if I'd go that far. I mean, it's definitely been a good amount of work, but it's something that's always going to have to be secondary to kind of my full time job with Boise State, with teaching and kind of research. But Luckily, it actually takes surprisingly, less work than you might think, just kind of keeping things updated. The way I built the HTML code made it pretty easy to kind of throw things in there. But as far as how it's impacted my teaching and research, I'm kind of in this interesting situation where I research sports law. I focus very heavily on sports law in my research activities. I don't teach sports law though, which is almost kind of a shame. Like I really kind of wish I did. But here at Boise State, I'm in the business school. I teach legal environment and business and HR law. But I've still been able to kind of throw in these cases, and especially given kind of the knowledge that I have of kind of the ongoing trends in college sports. We are at Boise State, for example. We have the blue. College football, college sports in general are extremely popular here, and students love hearing about it for the most part. I can't throw it in too much because it's not a sports law class, but I do have my students in my HR law class read the Johnson case to really talk about what it means to be an employee, for example, and just having kind of knowing about these current cases. I've been able to sprinkle them into my other classes as well, and students seem to get a kick out of it.
Professor Ehrlich, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been a pleasure. And for everybody watching, be sure to check out the serma.org for more podcasts.
Thank you. My pleasure, Marcy.